When Mildred was 25, she met a much older man. Paul constantly gave her flowers, invited her to expensive restaurants and trips. The man was persistent, and Mildred fell in love. When she realized this, the big age difference didn't matter anymore for her, and she didn't care that he was married. Especially, Paul promised Mildred to divorce his wife and to marry her then, and Mildred was over the moon. Paul rented her an apartment, and it was a fabulous time when they couldn't get enough of each other. After a couple of months, the doorbell rang. To Mildred's great surprise, Paul's wife was standing on the threshold. She came to talk sense into Mildred, to make her not destroy their family and to think about their child. But Mildred was deaf to her pleas. She said that they loved each other and they have their right to happiness. A month after that, Paul finally filed for divorce and moved in with Mildred. So they lived together for a year, but Paul didn't propose to her. Moreover, not a trace of their former passion was left, and Mildred began to look realistically at Paul. She began to think that she was mistaken. Paul was no longer romantic as before. He had become boring and very thrifty. So Mildred weighed all the pros and cons and broke up. 6 years later, she married a man her own age. Mildred was sure she wasn't mistaken this time. It was true love. They understood each other completely and had the same plans and goals. And soon a beautiful daughter was born. Such an idyll only happens in movies. Mildred helped her husband to get back on his feet and open his own business. The man began to earn good money. They started to save for their daughter's education at a prestigious university and for a comfortable retirement. When their daughter was 10 years old, something incomprehensible began with her husband. Mildred had already seen this lost look. It was the look of a man in a midlife crisis. Paul had such a look. And then Mildred found out that her husband had a mistress. She was 25 years old, and Mildred's husband spent all their savings on her. He bought her an apartment, took her to restaurants and resorts. Mildred got up the courage to call her, trying to explain that she was doing irreparable damage to her family and hurting their daughter. But the woman heard the answer she was waiting for. "I love him, and I will fight for my love." A few days later, Mildred took the keys to her husband's mistress's apartment from his pocket and went to her place. When she got there, she found his things that he had changed into, saw their video camera, which he had sort of sold, and caught a glimpse of the video he had taken. He was filming his mistress, and a sense of hopelessness gripped Mildred. She grabbed a pair of scissors and started cutting everything in sight. Out of anger and desperation, she cut all of her things and squeezed all the cosmetics out of the tubes. Then she got into a cab and went home to pack. Mildred went back to her parents. The boomerang of life had returned, and now she realized it. She had not cared about Paul's wife's fate then, and now she knew exactly how much pain she had caused back then. Now Mildred would like to ask her for forgiveness and say that life had punished her too.